How's it going, everyone? Ian Patrick here. And there are so many genres from back in the day. There are so many classics, and I try to mix it up all the time. I don't want to just watch one genre all the time. Of course, in October, I watch only horror films, but my favorite genre is definitely the costume period dramas. And I haven't watched or I haven't reviewed a Civil War film yet, which is what we're doing tonight with Drums in the Deep South. It came out in 1951, and it stars James Craig, Barbara Payton, and Guy Madison. So if you like Gone with the Wind, if you like Jezebel or Band of Angels, this flick is probably for you. However, I will go ahead and say from the start that Drums in the Deep South is more like a B movie compared to those. In fact, if you're comparing it with Gone with the Wind, I'd say it's like a C, and of course, Gone with the Wind is like A+. So it's kind of hard to compare the two. However, they are all in the same genre, learning about life during the Civil War in the South, or just Southern life in general. So James Craig, I don't know, I didn't know anything about the actors before seeing it. James Craig, he was in apparently a lot of low budget films. When Clark Gable went to fight in World War II, MGM thought, okay, this guy kind of looks like Clark Gable, let's use him in some films. So in the 40s, he had more of a prosperous career, but he was in a lot of low budget films. Barbara Payton, she was stunningly beautiful. I will say though that her personal life is more dramatic than this film and many films that I've seen. Just go on imdb.com and read her little biography there, because Barbara Payton seriously had a very sad and tragic life, an interesting life, and a short life. Anyways, Guy Madison, he found his place in Westerns. He has a small role in the film. All right, let's get to the plot. So, Barbara Payton, she plays the beautiful Southern belle. She's basically Scarlet, Vivian Leigh. And honestly, I'd say Barbara Payton, she might be as beautiful as Vivian Leigh. It's arguable. So the war hasn't broken out yet, and she's just in her place in her southern plantation home, and I don't know if it's plantation, but you get that feeling. And she's with her husband, and an old friend, her old lover, comes into town, who's played by James Craig, and instantly they're in love again. It's like the affair starts. Her husband goes into another room to talk to Guy Madison, and instantly they're already smooching. So the entire film, there's an affair between Barbara Payton and James Craig. So I kind of had a hard time agreeing with their love, just because they were kind of screwing over her husband so much. So in fact, you even kind of forget that she's married. But so they're all together, and then all of a sudden they hear about Fort Sumter and war has broken out. And so we fast forward a little bit, and James Craig, he is somewhat of a war hero for the Confederates, and he is known as the guy that does jobs that are more or less suicide jobs, but he always comes back alive. So he's a daredevil, and his mission is to blow up or stall the railroads, the Union railroads, because the Union are using these railroads to get supplies and things to the sea. So his mission is to get on top of this mountain and to shoot cannons and just stop the trains from going. So bam, that's the plot. And Barbara Payton's character, this mountain happens to be right next to her plantation home. Her husband is off fighting somewhere else. But so the plantation is right next to the mountain. She gets involved with James Craig and their fiascos of trying to defeat the Union. And I will say that if you are a sympathizer with the Confederates, or if you are from the South and have that Confederate pride, then this movie is perfect for you. I even have a little Robert E. Lee statue on my desk. That's the only thing I have that can relate to the film. But I thought it was a little odd because they made the Union fighters look a little bit. It showed their bad side, I would say, more than their good side in this film. So it's interesting with this film because it really does get the audience to cheer for the Confederates. But I couldn't really get too much into that since I'm not really from the Deep South. But so you see the good sides and the bad sides of both the Confederates and the Union soldiers. However, I don't think you really see any bad side on the Confederates in this movie. There's nothing about slavery, really. But so that's pretty much the plot, guys. I'm not going to get too much into it. I'm going to give the movie 2 stars. And I want to say the reason mainly is because the male actors were extremely weak. In fact, Barbara Payton carried this film on her back, I would say. Her acting was decent, but her beauty just would get all the men staring at her the entire film because she was so stunning. So she carried the film. And I said already that it showed the good side and bad sides of them. Of course, every Civil War film has to show the struggles of old friends fighting against each other because Guy Madison is now fighting for the Union and James Craig is fighting for the Confederates. So there's that cliche, typical, we used to be brothers and now we're fighting against each other theme in this movie. And of course it showed Southern life, as do all these type of films. Overall, the fighting scenes were very lackluster. I thought they were pretty dull, but this film obviously felt like a B movie, so I wasn't expecting something amazing. I honestly found myself more interested with the first 30 minutes of the film. Once we got into the action, honestly, it just kind of dulled out a little bit. It got a little boring, to be honest, but if you're into action films, it's probably a great film. I thought the actual story was interesting of getting on this mountain. I thought those scenes were fascinating, of them going through the caves, setting up to fight the Union soldiers. So that was interesting. And as I said, this is perfect for those Confederate sympathizers or Confederate pride people. You'll find yourself cheering and rooting because the Confederates do a lot of good things. They win some battles. The film, of course, definitely isn't Gone with the Wind. However, it's a decent little film. And honestly, after seeing Barbara Payton in this movie, it really got me wanting to see Only the Valiant with Barbara Payton and Gregory Peck. So I have a feeling there's going to be a review coming out for that movie pretty soon. So watch Drums in the Deep South if you really like Civil War films. I don't know if I'll be watching it anytime in the near future, but that's going to be it for this. Boom.